The stars outside the research station looked like scattered diamonds against black cloth. Tay stood at the observation window, a cup of cold coffee in his hand. He had been staring at the same medical scans for 6 hours, and his eyes burned with exhaustion. "You need sleep," Hyun said from across the lab. He was Tay's research partner and closest friend on the station. "Those heart models will still be there tomorrow." Tay shook his head. "There has to be something we're missing. Some pattern in how different species handle cardiac failure." "Tay, you can't save everyone." The words hit harder than Hyun intended. Tay turned away from the window and looked down at his coffee. He thought about Da-hee, his younger sister. She had died 3 years ago from a heart condition that no doctor on Earth could fix. He had been studying medicine then, full of hope and confidence. He had promised her he would find a cure. He had failed. That failure brought him here, to New Horizon Station, a research facility in neutral space where dozens of species came to share medical knowledge. If he couldn't save his sister, maybe he could save someone else's. The door to the lab slid open with a soft hiss. A woman walked in, but she wasn't human. Her skin had a faint blue shimmer, and her eyes were solid silver with no pupils. She wore elegant robes that seemed to flow like water. Behind her stood 2 guards in dark armor. "Dr. Tay?" she asked. Her voice had a musical quality that didn't quite match the movement of her lips. "That's me," Tay said carefully. Visitors like this were rare. New Horizon had strict security protocols. "My name is Kira. I come from the Velthran Empire." She paused, watching his reaction. "I need your help with a medical matter of extreme importance." Hyun moved closer to Tai, protective. "What kind of medical matter?" Kira glanced at the guards, then back to Tay. "May we speak privately?" Tay looked at Hyun, who shook his head slightly. It could be dangerous. But Tay's curiosity was stronger than his caution. "Hyun can stay. He's my partner in all my research." Kira considered this, then nodded. She pulled out a small device and activated it. A holographic image appeared in the air between them. It showed what looked like a heart, but unlike any heart Tay had ever seen. It was partly organic, partly crystalline. The crystal parts glowed with soft blue light, but dark cracks ran through them like broken glass. "This is Queen Ishara's heart," Kira said quietly. "She is the ruler of our empire. She is dying." Tay stepped closer to the hologram, his medical training taking over. "I've never seen anything like this. The crystal structure, is it part of the organ itself?" "Yes. All Velthrans have crystalline hearts. They are the source of our telepathic abilities and our long lives. But the Queen's heart is suffering from crystal decay. Our best physicians cannot stop it. She has perhaps 6 months to live." "Why come to me?" Tay asked. "I'm just one researcher among thousands on this station." Kira's silver eyes met his. "Because humans have a reputation. You are the species that refuses to accept death. You try impossible things. You find solutions where others see only endings." She paused. "And I have reviewed your research papers. You think differently than other species. You look for connections they miss." Hyun spoke up. "The Velthran Empire doesn't exactly welcome outsiders. Everyone knows you think your species is superior to others." Kira's expression tightened. "That is why I am here in secret. Many in our empire would rather let the Queen die than ask for alien help. But I believe differently. I believe pride is a poor substitute for wisdom." Tay studied the holographic heart again. The cracks in the crystal were spreading, he could see. Whatever was happening, it was progressive and degenerative. "What happens if she dies?" "Civil war," Kira said simply. 12 noble houses will tear the empire apart fighting for power. Billions will die, and that is why I am willing to risk everything to find a cure." Tay felt something stir in his chest. This was exactly the kind of challenge he had been searching for. A unique problem that required new thinking. A chance to save a life that seemed beyond saving. But Hyun grabbed his arm. "Can we talk outside for a moment?" They stepped into the hallway. Hyun kept his voice low. "Tay, this could be a trap. The Velthrons are known for political games. What if they're just using you?" "What if they're not?" Tay countered. "What if there's really someone dying who needs help?" "You can't save everyone," Hyun repeated, softer this time. "You couldn't save Dahi. That wasn't your fault." "I know," Tay said, "but I can try to save this queen. I have to try." Hyun sighed, recognizing the determination in his friend's eyes. "Then I'm coming with you. Someone needs to watch your back." They returned to the lab. Kira stood exactly where they had left her, patient and still. "I'll help," Tay said. "But I need full access to all medical records, complete cooperation from your physicians, and I work my own way. No interference." Kira bowed her head slightly. "Agreed. We leave tomorrow. Prepare whatever equipment you need." After she left, Tay and Hyun spent the night packing medical scanners, computers, and research materials. Tay barely slept. His mind raced with possibilities and questions. What could cause crystal to decay inside a living heart? How did organic tissue and mineral structure work together? And most importantly, could a human doctor really understand alien biology well enough to help? The next morning, they boarded Kira's ship. It was sleek and beautiful, made of the same shimmering material as her robes. As the ship pulled away from New Horizons Station, Tay looked back at the place that had been his home for 2 years. Hyun sat beside him. "No second thoughts?" "Plenty," Tay admitted. "But I'm going anyway." The journey to the Velthron homeworld would take 3 days. On the second day, Tay was in his cabin reviewing medical data when his computer received an anonymous message. The sender's identity was encrypted and untraceable. The message was short. "The Queen's heart is not the only thing dying in the Empire. Trust no one, especially those closest to the throne." Tay read it 3 times, his stomach tightening with worry. He thought about showing it to Kira, but something stopped him. The message specifically warned against trusting those close to the throne, and Kira was very close to the throne indeed. He deleted the message and said nothing, but sleep came even harder that night. On the 3rd day, their ship emerged from faster-than-light travel. Through the viewport, Tay saw the Velthron homeworld. It was beautiful, covered in blue oceans and crystalline cities that caught the sunlight and threw it back in rainbow colors. The capital city looked like it was built entirely from giant gemstones. "Welcome to Velthara," Kira said, standing beside him. "Home of the Crystal Throne." As their ship descended toward the palace, Tay felt his heart beating faster. Somewhere in that glittering city, a queen was dying, and somehow, impossibly, he was supposed to save her. He thought of Dahi one more time. He had failed her, but maybe that failure had brought him here for a reason. Maybe this was his chance at redemption. The ship landed with barely a whisper of sound. The door opened, and Tay stepped out into an alien world, carrying nothing but his medical knowledge and a desperate hope that it would be enough. The Crystal Palace was larger than any building Tay had ever seen. Towers of translucent stone rose into the sky, each one glowing with inner light. The walls seemed alive, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. Guards in silver armor lined the corridors, their silver eyes watching every movement. Captain Wren met them at the entrance. He was tall and muscular, with scars across his blue-tinted skin. His face showed no emotion as he looked at Tay and Hyun. "So these are the humans who think they can save our queen," he said. His tone made it clear what he thought of that idea. "Captain Wren commands the Royal Guard," Kira explained. "He will ensure your safety while you're here, or make sure we don't cause trouble." Hyun muttered quietly. Ren's eyes flickered toward Hyun. I heard that, human. And yes, both things are true. They walked through endless hallways. Tae noticed other Velthrans stopping to stare at them. Some looked curious, others looked angry. He heard whispers in a language he didn't understand, but the tone was clear enough. Not everyone was happy about humans being in the palace. Ignore them, Kira said softly. Change is always frightening. Finally, they reached a set of massive doors carved with intricate patterns. 2 guards opened them, and Tae found himself in the throne room. It was enormous, with a ceiling so high it disappeared into shadows. At the far end, on a throne that seemed to be made from a single piece of blue crystal, sat Queen Ishara. Even dying, she was magnificent. She wore robes of deep purple, and her silver hair fell to her waist. But it was her heart that caught Tae's attention. Through her translucent chest, he could see it clearly. The crystalline structure flickered with weak light, the cracks spreading through it like dark veins. Approach, the queen said. Her voice filled the room without seeming loud. Tae walked forward, trying not to show his nervousness. Hyun stayed close beside him. When they reached the throne, Tae wasn't sure if he should bow or kneel or what. He settled for a respectful nod. Your Majesty, I'm Dr. Tae. I'll do everything I can to help you. Ishara's silver eyes studied him carefully. For a moment, Tae felt like she could see straight through him, reading every thought and memory. It was deeply uncomfortable. You are very young, she said finally, and you carry great sadness. Someone you loved died, and you could not save them. Tae's throat tightened. My sister, 3 years ago. I am sorry for your loss. The Queen's expression softened slightly. Tell me, Dr. Tae, do you think you can succeed where all my physicians have failed? I don't know, Tae said honestly, but I promise I'll try everything possible. Something flickered in the Queen's eyes. Approval, maybe. That is all anyone can do. Come, meet the one who will work with you. An elderly Velthron stepped forward from the shadows. He had kind eyes and moved with the careful precision of someone who had spent a lifetime in medicine. This is Thelvar, my personal physician, Ishara said. He will provide you with all medical records and assist your research. Thelvar bowed to Tae. I confess, I am skeptical that an outsider can help, but I am also desperate. The Queen is like a daughter to me. I will help in any way I can. For the next 3 days, Tae and Hyun worked in a medical laboratory deep in the palace. Thelvar brought them centuries of Velthron medical knowledge. Tae read until his eyes hurt, trying to understand alien biology that seemed to break every rule he knew. Velthran hearts were incredible. The crystal structure didn't just pump blood, it stored neural patterns, memories, emotions. It was both heart and brain combined. The crystal conducted bioelectric energy that gave Velthrons their telepathic abilities. But crystal decay was destroying all of it. The dark cracks weren't just physical damage. They were accumulations of negative psychic energy. I don't understand, Tae said to Thelvar on the 4th day. Where does this negative energy come from? Thelvar sighed. From the Queen herself. Our people are telepathic. We feel each other's emotions. As a ruler, Queen Ishara has spent 3 centuries connecting with her people, understanding their pain, their grief, their suffering. She takes it into herself to better serve them. But all that absorbed pain has crystallized in her heart. It's killing her. Tae stared at the medical scans. The Queen was dying because she cared too much, because she had spent her entire long life trying to understand and help her people. There must be a way to remove the negative energy, he said. We have tried everything, Thelvar said tiredly. Telepathic healing, crystal purification, even replacing parts of the heart. Nothing works. The energy is too deeply embedded. Tay thought hard. On Earth, when organs failed, they used transplants or artificial replacements. But this wasn't just an organ. It was part of the Queen's consciousness. You couldn't just swap it out. Then an idea struck him. What about human cells? Thelvar looked confused. What do you mean? Humans aren't telepathic, Tay explained, excitement building. We don't have psychic abilities at all. What if that means we're immune to psychic energy? What if I could create a bio-interface using human stem cells that could filter or absorb the negative energy without being harmed by it? Thelvar's eyes widened. That's completely unprecedented. No alien tissue has ever been successfully integrated with Veltron biology. Has anyone ever tried? Tay asked. No, Thelvar admitted. We never saw the need. We believed our medicine was superior to all others. Pride, Tay said quietly. That's what Kira called it. Over the next week, Tay worked on creating the bio-interface. He used his own stem cells, carefully modifying them to survive in Veltron biology. Hyun helped him run thousands of simulations on their computers. But during this time, Tay also noticed things that worried him. Medical supplies sometimes went missing. Test results were occasionally corrupted. Someone was interfering with their work. He also began to understand the politics of the palace. Lady Mira, head of a powerful noble house, made no secret that she thought the queen should step down. Lord Shen, who commanded the military, visited the medical lab often, asking pointed questions about when the treatment would be ready. One evening, Kira found Tay alone in the lab. She looked troubled. I need to tell you something, she said. I haven't been completely honest with you. Tay's stomach tightened. About what? About who I am. I'm not just an ambassador, I'm the Queen's youngest daughter. My mother hid me from public view to protect me from assassination attempts. If she dies, they'll force me to take the throne. Tay absorbed this information. You're scared. Terrified, Kira admitted. I'm not ready to rule an empire. I don't want that responsibility. But more than that, I can't lose my mother. She's all I have left. Tay understood that feeling perfectly. We'll save her, I promise. Finally, after 2 weeks of preparation, Tay was ready to attempt the first procedure. It would be a small test, introducing the human bio-interface into a tiny section of the Queen's failing heart. The Queen lay on a medical table, conscious and calm. Tay's hands shook slightly as he prepared the injection of modified human cells. Are you ready? He asked. I am, Ishara said. Do what you must, Dr. Tay. Tay carefully injected the cells into the damaged area of crystal. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the crystal began to glow brighter. The dark cracks started to fade. It's working, Thelvar breathed. By the stars, it's actually working. For 72 hours, the improvement continued. The Queen felt stronger. The crystal continued to clear. Tay barely slept, monitoring her constantly, afraid to hope but unable to stop himself. Then, on the third night, everything went wrong. Queen Ishara collapsed during dinner. Her heart went into violent spasms. Alarms screamed through the palace. Tay ran to the medical wing, his heart pounding with fear. The human cells were being rejected, but not normally. The rejection was too precise, too targeted. Tay scanned the Queen's heart and saw something that made his blood run cold. Someone was using telepathic energy to attack the human cells. Someone powerful was standing somewhere in the palace, focusing their psychic abilities on destroying Tay's treatment. Someone was trying to murder the Queen, and they were using Tay's own cure as the weapon. Tay worked frantically to stabilize the Queen. Her heart was tearing itself apart from the inside. The human cells he had introduced were dying, and their death was causing violent reactions in the surrounding crystal. Remove the human cells, Thelvar shouted. We need to reverse the procedure. No, Tay said, his hands steady despite his racing heart. If we remove them now, the damage will be worse. We need to stop whatever is attacking them. What do you mean, attacking them? Thelvar demanded. Someone in this palace is using telepathic energy to destroy my treatment, Tay explained as he injected stabilizing medication. This isn't biological rejection. This is murder. Captain Wren, who had rushed to the medical wing when the alarm sounded, stepped forward. That's a serious accusation, human. It's the truth, Tay said. Look at the energy patterns. They're too organized, too directed. This is deliberate. Wren studied the scans, his expression darkening. If you're right, this is treason. But who would dare? Someone who wants the queen dead, Kira said from the doorway. Her face was pale with fear. Someone who benefits from chaos. It took 6 hours to stabilize Ishara. The queen survived, but the human cells were destroyed. Worse, her heart was now weaker than before. The attack had accelerated the crystal decay. In the morning, Tay met with a woman he had only heard about. High Scholar Yuna was the keeper of ancient Velthron knowledge, advisor to queens for over 200 years. She was small and frail-looking, but her silver eyes held depths of wisdom. "Walk with me, Dr. Tay," she said. They strolled through the palace gardens, where crystalline flowers grew from the ground, ringing like bells in the breeze. Guards followed at a distance, but Yuna led Tay to a quiet corner where they could talk privately. "There is something I must show you," Yuna said. She pulled out an ancient book, its pages made of thin crystal sheets. "This is from our oldest texts, a prophecy written 3,000 years ago." She opened the book and pointed to symbols that Tay couldn't read. But Yuna translated. "When crystal breaks beneath the weight of stars, salvation comes from minds that cannot hear the void." "Minds that cannot hear the void," Tay repeated. "You mean humans. We can't hear telepathic communication." "Exactly," Yuna said. "I have studied your species for decades, Dr. Tay. I believe humans are the evolutionary counter to telepathic races. Where we connect, you shield. Where we absorb, you reflect. Your very inability to sense psychic energy makes you immune to it." Tay's mind raced. "Then why did the treatment fail?" "Because you tried to use human cells alone," Yuna said. "But the prophecy suggests something different. Not human tissue, but human consciousness. You need to connect with the queen mind to mind and draw out the toxic energy directly." "But I'm not telepathic," Tay protested. "How can I connect with her?" "We have technology that can facilitate such a connection," Yuna said. "It was developed for emergencies, to allow non-telepathic species to communicate with us. But no one has ever used it for medical purposes, and the risks are severe. You could be overwhelmed by centuries of accumulated pain. You could die, or worse, lose your mind entirely." Tay was quiet for a long moment. He thought about Dahi again. He had been too cautious with her, too afraid to try experimental treatments. He had played it safe, and she had died anyway. "I'll do it," he said. Yuna nodded slowly. "I thought you might. But there's something else you should know. Whoever is trying to kill the queen will try to stop you, and I believe they are someone close to the throne, someone with great power." Back in his quarters, Tay found Hyun waiting for him. His friend looked exhausted and worried. "I've been investigating," Hyun said, "looking into who has access to the medical wing, who could sabotage our work. I found something disturbing." He pulled up files on his computer. "Lord Shen has been purchasing illegal telepathic weapons from black market dealers, devices that can amplify psychic attacks. And Lady Mira has been secretly meeting with Shen's people, despite publicly opposing him." "They're working together," Tay realized. "It looks that way," Hyun confirmed. But I don't understand the end game. If the queen dies, wouldn't they fight each other for power? Unless one of them plans to betray the other, Tay said. Let Shen eliminate the other noble houses, then kill him and take control. Hyun nodded grimly. Mira would be smart enough to do that. But we have another problem. The equipment you need for the mind connection procedure isn't here. It's on New Horizon Station. Then we need to get it here, Tay said. Can you go back and bring it? Hyun hesitated. That means leaving you alone in this palace full of people who want you dead. I'll be careful, Tay promised. And Kira and Captain Ren will protect me, I hope. Hyun left the next day on a fast ship. Tay spent the time preparing for the procedure and trying to understand telepathy. Yuna worked with him every day, teaching him meditation techniques used by young Velthrons, learning to control their powers. The sessions were painful. Yuna used the emergency connection technology to give Tai brief glimpses of telepathic sensation. It was like trying to see with his ears, or hear with his skin. His brain wasn't built for it, and each session left him with crushing headaches. But slowly, very slowly, Tay began to sense something. It was faint, like hearing a conversation through thick walls. He couldn't understand the words, but he could feel the emotion behind them. When Yuna was calm, he felt peace. When she was worried, he felt tension. You're adapting, Yuna said, amazed. Your brain is actually creating new neural pathways. I've never seen anything like it. Meanwhile, Captain Ren was investigating the conspiracy. He questioned guards, reviewed security footage, tracked unusual movements in the palace. What he found confirmed Tay's suspicions. Lord Shen has been using a telepathic weapon called a mind crusher, Ren told Tay and Kira during a secret meeting. It amplifies psychic energy into a directed attack. That's what he used to sabotage your treatment. Can you arrest him? Kira asked. Not yet, Ren said. He's too powerful and he commands the loyalty of half the military. If I move against him without proof, it could start the civil war we're trying to prevent. I need to catch him in the act. Then we give him another opportunity, Tay said. We announce that we're attempting the full procedure. He'll have to try to stop it. And that's when we catch him. Ren's expression was troubled. You're making yourself bait. I'm making myself useful, Tay corrected. A week later, Hyun returned from New Horizon with the equipment. He also brought something else, 2 security specialists, former soldiers who owed him favors. They would help protect Tay during the procedure. The night before the surgery, Tay couldn't sleep. He stood at his window, looking out at the crystalline city. Somewhere out there, people were going about their lives, unaware that their entire civilization balanced on the edge of collapse. Kira found him there. Having second thoughts? Thousands of them, Tay admitted. What if I fail? What if I make things worse? Then you fail, Kira said simply. But at least you tried. My mother always says that courage isn't about succeeding. It's about trying even when success seems impossible. They stood together in comfortable silence for a while. Then Kira spoke again, softer. Can I tell you a secret? Of course. I'm glad you came here, she said. Not just because you might save my mother, but because you've shown me something important. You've shown me that asking for help isn't weakness, that admitting you don't have all the answers is actually wisdom. Our empire has been proud for so long, too proud. Maybe that's why we're failing. Tay thought about that. Every species has strengths and weaknesses. The trick is learning to work together. Yes, Kira agreed. Exactly that. The next morning, everything was ready. The medical chamber had been prepared. The neural interface equipment was calibrated. Queen Ishara lay on the medical table, her heart flickering weakly in her chest. Thelvar would monitor her vital signs. Hyun would operate the computers. Yuna would guide the telepathic connection. And Captain Ren, along with his most trusted guards, would protect them from interference. Tay looked at the Queen. Are you ready for this, Your Majesty? Ishara smiled faintly. I have lived for 300 years, Dr. Tay. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have loved and lost. I have made mistakes and achieved wonders. If I die today, I die having tried everything. Yes, I am ready. Tay nodded. He lay down on a second medical table next to the Queen's. Yuna placed a silver crown on his head, covered in crystalline sensors. Once the connection is established, Yuna explained, your consciousness will merge with the Queen's. You will experience her memories, her emotions, everything she is. And you will feel the darkness in her heart. You must draw it into yourself and let your human mind neutralize it. And if I can't? Tay asked. Then both of you will die, Yuna said bluntly. There's no point in lying about the risks. Tay took a deep breath. Let's begin. Yuna activated the neural interface. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Tay felt something shift in his mind, like a door opening that had always been closed. And suddenly he wasn't alone in his own head anymore. Tay's consciousness exploded into 1,000 pieces and reformed as something larger. He was still himself, but he was also Queen Ishara. He felt her memories flowing through him like a river. He saw her coronation 300 years ago, a young woman terrified of the responsibility being placed on her shoulders. He felt her first love, bright and painful. He experienced the death of her husband in a war she couldn't prevent, the grief that nearly broke her. He witnessed thousands of decisions, each one carrying the weight of billions of lives. But beneath all of it, he felt the darkness. It was like a massive weight pressing down on his chest. The accumulated suffering of an entire empire absorbed into one heart over 3 centuries. He felt a mother's anguish when her child died of disease, a soldier's terror in his final moments, a worker's despair at poverty with no escape, a diplomat's shame at a negotiation that failed. On, thousands upon thousands of painful memories that weren't Ishara's own, but that she had taken into herself to better understand her people. The darkness threatened to crush him. Tay wanted to scream, to break the connection and flee back into his own mind, but he held on. In the physical world, alarms began to sound. Tay's body convulsed on the medical table. His heart rate spiked dangerously high. His brain is overloading, Hyun shouted. We need to abort the procedure. No, Yuna commanded. He knew the risks. We have to let him try. Inside the mental connection, Tay struggled to maintain his sense of self. The darkness wrapped around him like chains, trying to drag him down into an ocean of despair. Then he heard Ishara's voice in his mind. You cannot fight it, Dr. Tay. I tried for centuries. The darkness is too strong. Then I won't fight it, Tay thought back. I'll absorb it. That's what I came here to do. It will destroy you. Maybe, Tay admitted, but I have something you don't. I know what it means to be truly alone. He focused on that feeling. Humans weren't telepathic. They didn't naturally share emotions and thoughts. Each human mind was an island, connected to others by choice and effort, not by biology. That separateness, that fundamental aloneness, had always seemed like a weakness compared to telepathic species. But now it was his strength. The darkness crashed against his consciousness like waves against a cliff. It hurt terribly, but it couldn't merge with him. It couldn't find purchase in a mind that had never been designed to connect telepathically. Where Ishara's consciousness was open and receptive, Tay's was closed and resistant. Slowly, painfully, Tay began to pull the darkness out of Ishara's heart and into his own mind. Each piece felt like swallowing broken glass. He experienced grief and rage and fear and despair, all concentrated into pure psychic energy. But then each piece of darkness hit his human consciousness and dissipated, like fog hitting sunlight. His mind couldn't hold psychic energy. It simply passed through him and dissolved. "It's working," Thelvar said, staring at the monitors. "The Queen's heart is clearing." But in another part of the palace, Lord Shen watched through a hidden camera. He saw the treatment succeeding, saw his plans falling apart. He grabbed the Mind Crusher device and activated it. "If I can't have the throne," he muttered, "no one will." He focused all his telepathic power, amplified by the illegal weapon, and directed it at the medical chamber. The psychic attack was massive, designed to kill both the Queen and Tay instantly. Captain Wren felt the attack coming. His telepathic senses screamed a warning. "Brace for impact!" he shouted. The psychic blast hit the medical chamber like a tidal wave. Every Veltron in the room cried out in pain, dropping to their knees. Even Yuna, ancient and powerful, nearly collapsed, but the attack couldn't reach Tay. He was in the heart bridge connection, his mind merged with Ishara's. And Ishara, drawing on Tay's strength, formed a telepathic shield around both of them. The attack bounced off harmlessly. Ren staggered to his feet, blood dripping from his nose. "That came from the east wing. Shen's quarters, move!" He and his guards ran through the palace corridors. They burst into Shen's rooms and found the Lord standing with the Mind Crusher still in his hands, shock on his face. "How did they survive?" Shen whispered. "Because you underestimated humans," Ren said coldly. "You're under arrest for treason and attempted murder." Shen laughed bitterly. "You think this changes anything? Lady Mira has already mobilized her forces. The civil war has begun regardless. You're too late." Back in the medical chamber, Tay was reaching the final barrier. There was one last knot of darkness in Ishara's heart, larger and denser than all the others. It pulsed with terrible energy. He tried to pull it out, but it wouldn't budge. It was too deeply embedded in the crystal structure. "What is this?" he thought to Ishara. "My own guilt," she answered. "Every mistake I made, every person who died because of my decisions, every time I failed to be the perfect ruler my people needed. I can carry the suffering of others, but I cannot let go of my own." Tay understood that feeling perfectly. He carried the same guilt about Dahi. He had blamed himself for her death every single day for 3 years. "You don't have to be perfect," Tay told her, remembering his sister's last words to him. "You just have to try. That's all any of us can do." "But I failed so many people," Ishara protested. "And you saved countless more," Tay countered. "You gave 300 years of your life in service. You absorbed the pain of billions to better understand them. You nearly died from caring too much, not too little. That's not failure. That's love." He thought of Dahi smiling at him from her hospital bed. "Appa, don't be sad," she had said. "You tried everything. That's what matters." He had tried everything. He had failed anyway, but trying still mattered. It had brought him here. It had given him the chance to save someone else, even if he couldn't save his sister. "Let it go," Tay whispered to Ishara. "Forgive yourself. You're only one person. You can't save everyone." The final knot of darkness trembled. Then, slowly, it began to dissolve. Ishara's heart blazed with pure, clear light. The crystal structure repaired itself, the cracks sealing, the dark veins vanishing. The organ pulsed with strong, steady beats. In the physical world, Tay and Ishara both gasped. The neural connection broke. Tay opened his eyes to see Hyun's worried face hovering over him. "You did it," Hyun breathed. "You actually did it." Tay tried to sit up but couldn't. He felt completely drained, like he had run a marathon while carrying a mountain. "The Queen?" "She's alive," Thelvar said, his voice thick with emotion. "Her heart is completely healed. I don't understand how, but it worked." Ishara sat up on her medical table. Her skin glowed with health. Her eyes were bright and alert. Her heart shone like a star in her chest. Then she reached out with her telepathic senses, and every Veltron in the palace felt her presence. It was like the sun coming out after a long storm. "This is your queen," her telepathic voice rang through the palace. "I live. I am healed. And anyone who thought to use my death for their own gain should think again." In the corridors, Shen's soldiers, who had been preparing to attack, suddenly felt the full weight of the queen's restored power. They dropped their weapons and surrendered. Lady Mira, who had been about to launch her own coup, felt Ishara's telepathic gaze turn toward her. The queen now knew everything about the conspiracies, having absorbed Tay's memories of the investigations. Mira ran, but she didn't get far. Captain Wren's guards arrested her within minutes, but Tay knew none of this yet. He was lying on the medical table, barely conscious, his body and mind exhausted beyond anything he had ever experienced. He had succeeded. He had saved the queen. But the cost had been enormous. As he drifted toward unconsciousness, he felt something strange, a lingering warmth in his mind, like an echo of the telepathic connection. He could sense Yuna's relief nearby, Hyun's joy, Kira's gratitude. The connection had changed him. He wasn't fully human anymore, not Veltron either. Something in between, a bridge between two species. Queen Ishara appeared beside his medical table. She looked down at him with an expression of profound gratitude. "You saved more than my life, Dr. Tay," she said softly. "You saved my empire, my people, and perhaps you saved me from myself." Tay tried to respond, but couldn't find the energy. Darkness was pulling him down, but this time it was just sleep, not psychic despair. His last thought before unconsciousness took him was of Da-hee. He imagined her smiling at him, proud of what he had accomplished. He had tried everything, and this time it had been enough. Tay woke up 3 days later in a comfortable bed in the palace medical wing. Sunlight streamed through crystal windows, painting rainbow patterns on the walls. For a moment, he forgot where he was. Then the memories came flooding back. Hyun was asleep in a chair beside the bed, his head tilted at an uncomfortable angle. Tay smiled at his friend's loyalty, then noticed something strange. He could feel Hyun's emotions faintly, like distant music, exhaustion mixed with relief and happiness. "You're awake," Yuna said from the doorway. "Good." "I was beginning to worry." Hyun jerked awake at her voice. When he saw Tay's open eyes, his face split into a huge grin. "You scared us half to death. 3 days unconscious. We thought maybe the procedure had damaged your brain." "I can still think," Tay said. His voice was hoarse. "But something's different. I can sense emotions. From Veltrans, I mean. Is that normal?" Yuna moved closer, studying him with fascination. "The telepathic connection left an imprint on your neural pathways. You're not truly telepathic, but you're sensitive to psychic energy now. It should fade over time, though perhaps not completely. You've become something unique, Dr. Tay. The first human Veltron bridge." Over the next week, Tay recovered his strength. He learned what had happened while he was unconscious. Lord Shen and Lady Mira had been put on trial. The evidence of their conspiracy was overwhelming. But Queen Ishara did something that surprised everyone. Instead of executing them, she offered them a choice: death or life in exile serving others. "I spent 300 years absorbing the pain of my people," Ishara explained to Tay during one of his visits to her throne room. "I learned that punishment without purpose creates only more suffering. Shen and Mira will spend the rest of their lives helping the poorest colonies in our empire. Perhaps serving others will teach them the lessons that power never could." Both traitors had chosen exile, shocked by the mercy they didn't deserve. Queen Ishara also announced sweeping reforms to the empire. She created a council that would share power with the throne. She established formal diplomatic relations with humanity and other species. She opened the borders that had been closed for centuries. "We believed ourselves superior because we were telepathic," she told the assembled noble houses. But a human with no psychic abilities saved my life and our empire. That should teach us humility. Every species has unique gifts. Our strength lies not in isolation, but in cooperation. Some of the nobles grumbled, but they didn't dare oppose her. Ishara's near-death and dramatic recovery had only strengthened her position. Kira visited Tai often during his recovery. They talked for hours about everything and nothing. Tai learned that she had decided to remain a diplomat rather than accept any royal title. "I found my purpose," she told him, "building bridges between species. I think I learned that from you." "I just tried to help," Tai said. "Exactly," Kira smiled. "That's what makes it real." One afternoon, Captain Ren came to see Tai. The warrior looked uncomfortable, like apologizing was physically painful for him. "I misjudged you, human," Ren said stiffly. "I thought you were weak, because you lacked telepathy. I was wrong. You have a different kind of strength." "We all have different strengths," Tai said. "That's what makes cooperation valuable." Ren nodded slowly. "The Queen has asked me to establish a new division of the Royal Guard, one dedicated to protecting not just her life, but the ideals she represents: unity, cooperation, humility. I would be honored if you would accept an honorary position as advisor." Tai was surprised. "I'm not a warrior, Captain." "No," Ren agreed, "but you have wisdom we need. Please consider it." The offer that mattered most to Tai came from Queen Ishara herself. She summoned him to the throne room 1 month after the successful procedure. Tai walked through the palace, still amazed by its beauty, and still occasionally overwhelmed by the faint emotions he could sense from passing Velthrons. "Dr. Tai," Ishara said warmly when he approached, "I owe you a debt that can never be fully repaid. Name anything you desire: wealth, titles, land, a position in my court. It's yours." Tai had thought about this moment. He knew what he wanted. "I want to create a medical research program," he said. "One that studies cardiac biology across different species. I want to build a database of knowledge that could save lives throughout the galaxy. And I want to name it after my sister, Dahi, the Dahi Initiative." Ishara's expression softened. "You wish to turn your personal tragedy into universal good. That is the mark of true wisdom." She stood from her throne. "It's done. You'll have funding, ships, access to any facility you need, and I'll personally ensure that other species contribute their knowledge as well." "Thank you, Your Majesty." "No, Dr. Tai, thank you. You gave me more than my life. You gave me hope." 6 months later, Tai stood on the bridge of a research vessel called the Dahi's Hope. It was smaller than a military ship, but packed with the most advanced medical equipment from a dozen species. Hyun was his second in command, and the crew included humans, Velthrans, and several other species. They had just finished their 3rd mission, saving the life of an alien child on a remote colony. The child's species had a rare heart condition, but by combining human surgical techniques with Velthran psychic healing and technology from 2 other races, they had found a cure. Kira was aboard as their diplomatic liaison. She often traveled with them, smoothing the way with local governments and helping coordinate research efforts. "Where to next?" Hyun asked, looking at the star charts. "The Miro system," Tai said. "They've reported an outbreak of cardiac failures. We might be able to help." Through the view screen, the stars stretched endlessly. Each one represented countless lives, countless opportunities to help. Tai thought about his journey. He had left Earth broken and guilty, carrying the weight of his sister's death. He had come to an alien empire to save a dying queen. In the process, he had discovered that his perceived weakness was actually strength, that his failure could lead to success, and that trying still mattered even when the outcome was uncertain. News of his work had spread across the galaxy. Humanity was no longer seen as a young, weak species without telepathy or other obvious gifts. Instead, humans were respected for their determination, their innovation, and their refusal to accept death. More humans were venturing into space now, bringing their unique perspectives to galactic problems, and other species were learning to value what they brought. Tay had created a memorial station in orbit around Earth. It honored everyone who had died from heart conditions, including Da-hee. He visited it whenever he returned to human space, talking to his sister's memory about all the lives they had saved together. Because in a way, she was still with him. Her death had driven him to this work. Her memory motivated him every single day. And the initiative that bore her name was saving lives across the galaxy. His personal communicator chimed. It was a message from Queen Ishara. Her heart now beat stronger than ever, and she had become a powerful advocate for interspecies cooperation. Her message was simple. Dr. Tay, I've been contacted by the Therian Commonwealth. Their leader is suffering from a neurological condition that's baffling their physicians. They've asked specifically for you. Are you available? Tay smiled. Another challenge. Another chance to help. Another opportunity to prove that trying mattered, that different wasn't inferior, and that cooperation was stronger than isolation. He sent back a single word. Yes. Kira appeared beside him at the view screen. Through his psychic sensitivity, he felt her emotions clearly now. Gratitude, affection, hope for the future. You never stop, do you? She said softly. There's always someone who needs help, Tay replied. Always another life to try to save. You can't save everyone. Tay nodded, accepting that truth at last. No, but I can try. And sometimes, trying is enough. He looked out at the stars again, at a galaxy full of different species, each with unique strengths and weaknesses, each facing their own mortality and challenges. The Velthron Empire had almost fallen because of pride and isolation. But now it was thriving through cooperation and humility. And that change had started with one human doctor who refused to accept that death was inevitable, who turned his personal failure into universal purpose, and who proved that sometimes the smallest species could have the biggest impact. Hyun set coordinates for the Therian Commonwealth. The ship's engines hummed to life. They would arrive in 3 days, and Tai would study a completely new alien biology, face completely new challenges, and try completely new solutions. He might fail. He had failed before and would fail again, but he would also succeed sometimes. And those successes would save lives, build bridges between species, and create a galaxy where cooperation was valued over superiority. Da-hee would be proud, Tay thought. She would be so proud. The ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, carrying its mission of hope and healing toward the next star, the next challenge, the next life that needed saving. And Dr. Tay, the human who had saved an alien queen with a failing heart, smiled as he prepared to try once again to do the impossible. Because that's what humans did. They tried everything, and sometimes that was exactly enough.